Welcome back to another episode of Real Talk and ELT. So I dropped a little spicy LinkedIn post. Well, people thought it was like me throwing shade. Shots fired was one of the comments on it. But you know what? It actually wasn't. Here's why. I don't really care. I am off and doing my own thing. I am very happy on my own doing whatever I need to do, so it's fine. However, most of you might know there's a few episodes here that I was the coordinator of a school. And while this episode is not about that specific school, it is about schools in general because I do work with lots of schools. I have been working with schools since 2017, like pre-pandemic, because that's how I measure time now. Is it pre or post pandemic, mid pandemic? Yeah. So there's that. This episode is going to be talking about data driven teaching and talking about KPIs, which for those of you who are not in who don't know, key performance indicators. So that's what a KPI is, and how data-driven teaching isn't just about KPIs. It's also about progress, and how lots of schools kind of get it wrong, unfortunately. Most schools don't have data because most schools start this is my perspective because you have to understand this has been my experience. If something is different, I would very much love for you to say that. So when I make these generalizations, it's not because I'm saying this worldwide. I'm saying in my experience, most schools don't have data because most schools here in Brazil, a couple in Europe that I've been working with, they started as independent practices, freelancers pretty much, and then they grew because they needed help, and then they're like, well, let's formalize this, and then they became a small school, and then it started growing, and then the person that was the teacher is now the head of the institution, and they're trying to get everything. This is what I mean by like schools don't really have a lot of data because most teachers don't anticipate their freelance teaching or small practice teaching or tiny little, they get like a tiny little flat that they rent with them and a fellow teacher coming into a big school, or a bigger school, I should say. So most of them don't have data. And then when they do have data, this data then turns into, let's start to track the data and make changes based on the statistics that we have. But this is really kind of code for top-down tracking. I am going to penalize teachers who don't have good statistics. It's pretty much measuring attendance, test scores, satisfaction surveys. And while those things are important, and they certainly are indicators, they are only indicators. We're ignoring the whole idea of where are students improving, are teachers teaching effectively, and is learning real, or are students just being prepared for something reportable? So this is the shift that needs to happen. I've got my notes here. I'm very organized this time. Recently, I'm just trying to be a little bit more organized. So the shift needs to happen from data isn't about performance pressure, it's more about progress. So we need to kind of shift if you have data, that's great, but it's not the only thing that's going to tell you whether or not your school or the system that you're creating is sustainable or viable. So it tells a story. It certainly highlights patterns. It shows you where your curriculum and syllabus and materials are landing, or where a class of students is stalling out and they're not, maybe they're not coming and clearly their progress is dipping. It certainly can support teachers sometimes, making some decisions about the direction they want to go if your institution gives that autonomy to teachers. But typically, schools kind of drop these little KPIs like ultimatums, like you need to raise retention. Students are dropping out. Um, you need to boost the average test scores. Your students aren't doing well. Okay. Improve student engagement. Whatever that means this week, I'm not really sure. Like improve the engagement. Okay, that students self-reported that the classes were not engaging, but like what classes? This is not helpful. You need to log feedback. You need to track the feedback. You need to store the feedback. But then, we're not going to act on it. It's like, well, okay. So then teachers are just kind of sitting there left with like, thanks for the vague targets. I don't really have any context here, so I'm not sure what this data then translates into me actually changing my teaching practices. And I'm not telling people, this is not my recommendation, is to like, throw them in the trash. KPI is not important. No, clearly important. Things need to be measurable because then you can take action off of them. But we need to have data that means something in the context. We can't just say like, this is the little weapon of mine, and I'm going to say, well, this teacher has low retention. Cut that person from the team. It's like, why do they have low retention? Are we giving them like really horrible students? Are we giving them students that are studying at really ridiculous times of the day that they think they're going to be able to study, and then they don't, like 6 o'clock in the morning or 10 o'clock at night? Yeah, like retention is going to be low at those times. Are you kidding me? Like, not going to happen. Let's be realistic. So we need to kind of use these not as weapons, but we need to fix them a little bit. Yeah. And things that actually will help teachers are things like using formative assessment trends. So not end of course tests, but actually tracking progress throughout with formative assessments, because the end of course tells me how they can perform once. The formative assessment trend tells me how they're performing over a period of time. Everybody can have a bad day. I'm not saying that you don't do end of course tests. No. Okay. Please don't misinterpret my words, because I just know somebody's going to be like, well, Kelly said don't do end of course test. No, you can do an end of course test if you want to. But if that person, like, for example, I'm starting to get a little bit of a headache. I haven't hydrated myself well enough today. Probably have to do that more. And to be honest, after I finish the workday, I will be tired today. I just will be tired. It's a tired day for me. So I'm probably not going to perform that well. So end of course tests, like, it's how they perform on that day, not over the course of the semester. We can also change things like asking students for feedback that's actionable. Not those little smiley faces or stars. That's not actionable. Tell me something that really helped you and you would like replicated over several other classes. Meaning, was there a technique? Was there a worksheet? Was there a reference, a resource? Was there a topic that was super helpful for you in the group and needs to be replicated because it enhanced your learning in some way? Or tell me something that was a waste of time. Something specific. Not like, I think writing is a waste of time. No. Tell me specifically which writing tasks that you had to do were not helpful. Why were they not helpful? Did you not get information back from the teacher? Did you not get feedback? Is it something that you won't use? Should we make them flexible for teachers? That is something that we can actually do something with. Track skill development over time across the modalities. So like, how are they doing across everything? Just not like grammar quizzes. You would be shocked. It's 2025 and everybody says we're using communicative language teaching, but it's just filled with grammar. Just lots of grammar and vocabulary tests and nothing else. So yeah, that's not helpful for lots of people. And also, my dog is going to bark. Help teachers see the story behind the numbers. Meaning, what does this dip in progress mean? What's behind the success of one group? How can we replicate that in another? So working with schools and seeing this firsthand, and then also, consulting and doing that whole thing, my recommendation is to start thinking about these things not as KPIs, not as, oh, this is a number and this is the punishable. Like if you're not performing or if your students are replying and they're not happy, then we're, going to reduce your hours or you're off the team. No, we need to look at KPIs as kind of how can we use information to strengthen the curriculum, get more people, increase retention, what's working, where do we need to pivot, what's being misused. So if you give people KPIs, I think in general are just being misused because if you give people data but no direction, no reflection, no context, it tends to breed a little bit of cynicism. People just get cynical. Teachers do. They're human. So it's like the only thing that they care about is high student scores and high retention. So, I mean, that's not really helpful in terms of student progress. I feel as if we just need to build better data systems that they're useful to the team members. There's not just like these little dashboards. Oh, I can see all the little numbers. Great, the numbers are helpful, but what's the context? What's the context? And then you have to find creative solutions to extract that context so that you can actually make those numbers somehow, some way meaningful to your team so they can take actionable steps. If they can't take actionable steps, then I don't know why you're even reporting the numbers to them. If I can't change anything, why do I need to know? That's my rant. That's my rant for today. So, rant about data-driven teaching isn't about KPIs, it's about progress, but we have to be able to take the KPIs, the numbers, the statistics, the data, and make it focused on progress, not make it focused on reporting. Those are my thoughts. Good luck, school leaders. And I'll see you later.